Welcome back to all you lovers out there. Now, before we went to break, I wanted to get into the whole interracial relationship dynamic. But before we do that, I do want to ask what the relationship is like with your daughter's mother, your ex-wife. Like, how is that dynamic? And is it all hunky-dory or what?
At this point, it's hunky-dory.
Okay.
Like you said, we did sell her house.
We did sell her house, right?
So we had pretty good terms.
You know, that situation when it first evolved was obviously difficult for everybody. You know, we were college sweethearts. So, and then, you know, obviously having, you know, our daughter. So just the way it sort of ended was, for her, it was very abrupt. Because in a roundabout way, I know that I was figuring myself out.
So you was already building yourself up for a while.
And at the time, it wasn't intentional. But as I said, now, 36 years old, I think a lot differently. So I know now, I in my 20s, I was still figuring me out. And unfortunately and subconsciously, I was doing it on her time.
Yes.
So, and that's something that, you know, I own that. I can't, you know, so... But hurt people. So I think that as a result of me hurting her, you know, she did things that hurt me, and it kind of went like that for a while. And then we got to a good place, and then we went back to a bad place. But I can't say that for the last, you know, couple of years we co-parent well.
Okay.
She's remarried.
She's remarried.
That always helps.
It does.
I'm interested to know, Mark, the evolution of your relationship with his ex-wife. Just talk to us briefly about that, because I personally would love to hear the story.
Yeah, I think the first time I met his ex-wife was, I think it was the day that
we moved.
We were moving, yeah. And she really paid me no mind when I walked into the apartment. But Kurt had been in another relationship, like, for what, 4 years prior to that. So she had been exposed to him having boyfriends and stuff like that.
So you want
So I think it was animosity. I think anytime you have a man coming into life, and at that time, Kurt's daughter had just turned 6. As a mother, you're protective. Number 2, he's moving away. Is it for me, or what's the reasons for it? But it wasn't like animosity. I think that once she moved down here, we helped her get her own apartment down here. I think through those processes and seeing how Ariana, which is his daughter, her, I guess, developing love for me. She called me her GBF, her gay best friend. Still does.
You form your own relationship.
Yeah.
So
I think that, you know, Ariana going back to her mother and saying, I did this with Mark, and we went to the movies, and we did this, and, you know, it's whatever the case may be. She developed a level of respect for me. Yeah. And then once she moved down, we went over to her house, I think, with her then fiance
at the time.
And we had dinner together, and I think we were just all in agreement, like, we do what's in the best interest of Ariana. And I mean, my role is to never force, you know, I am the stepfather, but I respect how I came into the relationship, and I would think her new husband is the same way, and we know that Ariana comes first in both of their lives. I think it's just a mutual respect there.
It sounds like y'all have four mature adults.
Yeah.
We've grown up. We've grown up. It wasn't always so.
I wasn't part of the really bad.
He wasn't a
times.
part of the
initial
drama.
That's good for you,
Yeah, I didn't see all that, so yeah.
So let's get into the interracial dating. So, have you always dated in 100?
race.
Are you 100% black?
Yes.
And you are.
I'm Italian and Czechoslovakian, but obviously people look at me as...
And the lady, you white.
You the white guy.
I'm just light-skinned.
So tell me, had you dated interracially before? Prior to, you typically attracted to
I
white
like,
guys? Or?
well,
The joke is, right?
no, I'm not gonna tell them what the joke is.
Well, you already told us the joke.
Well, no. I like exotic looking people.
Okay.
Which typically is not African American.
Right.
I've dated Italian, I've dated Egyptian, I've dated a lot, but
When you were dating girls too, you dated black and Italian too.
in black and Italian.
You always
he was
pretty
all over the
diverse in
place.
your dating.
In
Yeah.
my day, but I know that my preference is usually something exotic or Italian, or something white. As
As they would
What
say.
about you, Mark?
Yeah, well, number one,
Seems like you got a lot of soul. This is like the male Tina Marie over here.
yeah, no, I always dated black guys, but for me, like I grew up in Connecticut, Newington, Connecticut, which was about 25 minutes outside of Hartford. And back in the 80s and early 90s, I never went to school with an African American until probably
Excuse me.
high school. That's easily good. I think as I found myself, and like I said, I think unless you're exposed to something, you just don't know.
Right.
And so I was kind of a late bloomer in a sense that I didn't come to terms with my sexuality probably until about 23.
Okay.
So does that mean you never even
never.
No.
had the thoughts
Never.
or
No, I never had. Well, as I say, I mean,
stirrings?
right. I had stirrings, but the funny thing is we both, when you talk about race differences and everything like that, one thing that we had in common, we both went to Catholic school, so that was kind of something that we shared in common. And I think growing up, the religious aspect is really something that held me back from who I was.
Yeah.
And then once I moved to, I guess they call it Washington Chocolate City. It's also Atlanta as well.
Atlanta.
Yeah, I kind of found myself, so I started believing out loud.
You was all in gay heaven, right?
He made this city. This was Chocolate City.
Right. So 1999, that's the first time I experienced something like that. And but I was the kid in school, even though I grew up in a predominantly, well, really mostly white, town. I was the kid, when people were listening to Metallica and AC/DC and all that. I was the one listening to all the, African American artists.
You always had black in you.
Yeah, Janet. So I think then I developed in college an attraction to African American females, and then once I moved down here, I think I was just, when you're away from your family, when you're just expose yourself to a city, because I went to Springfield College, which was a small college and a relatively small city in Massachusetts. I think when it comes to race, it's just allowing yourself to just meet different people, and you realize once you meet people that you really do judge the person by the content of their character. Now, obviously, the attraction is there. I think it's the same kind of thing for me. It was always I guess if that's all you've known, there's something exotic about seeing somebody that's opposite of you, and that's what you're kind of attracted to.
So is that what you're attracted to?
Yeah, I think it's something different. Like I said, I've always kind of been that. We joke about
I'm the white one.
Right.
He's the black one.
because I've always been I was watching BET,
Right.
Donnie Simpson and all that,
Right.
back in 7th, 8th grade. So and not to say that's everything, but I'm just saying that's
You just
kind
hit.
of
You was already immersed in the culture.
in the culture.
Culture.
I think it was the culture. And the thing when I moved down here, and what I found, and I'm sure you guys experienced too, is it's so cut black and white.
It's very sick. That's what we want to
get into
know.
that too.
Even when I was, in school, it was the Irish kids and the Polish kids and the Czech kids and the Italian kids. So it was much more about your ethnicity and going to like the Italian bakery or things like that. Where down here in the South, it's definitely white or black. So it took a lot for some of the, if I was dating black guys, it would take black guys that would really want to get to know me and not just look at, oh, that's the white guy or something like that.
So what is your experience as an interracial couple here in Atlanta, where the racial divide really is thick? What is the experience going out or like in restaurants?
For us, it's not a big deal, and here's why. I think, when I've dated other people, I tell folks that I've gotten the white guys that are so fixated on the fact that I'm black and they're white.
Yeah.
That
Stereotypical stuff.
For them, it's almost like everything, like black becomes the adjective that precedes me for everything. Oh, my black boyfriend. It's like, why can't I just be? So you have that type.
Yeah.
And then you have the type that they're so ingrained in black culture that
They almost want to be black almost.
So it's the wannabe. That's why I call you Tina Marie, because Tina Marie she's soulful.
Right.
It's natural. That's just who
That's
she
who you
is.
are.
But you definitely have people of races who make efforts to be like another race.
Right.
Definitely.
And so I've experienced, in interracial dating, I've experienced the different types that come with that. But with Mark, I just found him to be very genuine. I mean, we joke about I'm the white one, he's the black one, but the reality of it is he's very much in tune to like his Italian and Czech background. He's just very also in tune to the urban or hip hop,
what's going
black
on
culture.
in the community.
And it's never been about us being together and he gets to say, well, I got my black husband.
Right. We don't even look at
It's just never been like, it's just been like, he's Mark, I'm Kurt, and just so happens that we have a lot of common interests and a lot of them are ingrained with the culture.
Yeah.
And it's just been comfortable. Now, do we get stares or have we gotten stares? Absolutely.
By the time at the place off of Cheshire Bridge, right? When your mom came
My
down?
mom came down and we went to a restaurant off Cheshire Bridge. It was an authentic Italian.
I know what you're talking
I know
about too.
exactly
It's a lot of people always talking about this place. I say I'm going to go, and it's not that attractive from the outside.
Don't go because I will tell you, we went. It was Mark, my mom, my daughter, and myself. They wouldn't even seat us.
No. We walked in, we just stood there and people waited for
came in
the
after
posters,
us,
kept
and they would
walking
seat
by.
them, and then we were like, there's tables there,
Yeah,
and they
like, what are
wanted
you
to
doing
seat
here?
us in the furthest corner in the back where nobody could see us, and
Alfredo's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was being.
I'll beat that out.
Favorite restaurant too.
Yeah,
That's why I kept saying it. Right.
Right.
But your point's taken.
Right.
But
So was it because it was the interracial situation, or was it because it was white, or was it because it was Italian?
it almost looked like, I mean, the way they were treating us, like we were holding him hostage to be with them.
We joke about that too.
We joke about it, but
like,
this-
you kidnapped me or
But
something.
but the seriousness of it is like that's happened, and we've also eaten. We've had brunch where your mom has come down.
Right.
And
You get a party for two, it's like, no, he's with us.
He's with us.
Like, that's,
so we definitely have experienced. I guess you want to call it subtle,
right?
But
sometimes it's blatant, but sometimes,
How do you
it's subtle.
feel? Like, what emotions do you experience when those situations occur?
I expel ignorance. So I just take my money where my money will be welcome. So in that case of the restaurant on Cheshire Bridge, it was very simple. Like, oh, you want to put us in that corner when you have all these tables?
Right.
Let's go. We'll take our money somewhere else. Because our money is green like anybody else's money is green. So I don't give that any attention whatsoever. I go where I'm welcome. And I think that the experience with when we had brunch with your mom that time, there was like a table next to us.
Yeah.
It was full of like, African American guys, whatever. And you could tell that there was a lot of, and and it's like, I was the only African American at his table with his mother, but it was almost you just knew what was
You knew
being
it was they did not approve of the
right.
situation.
And it was just like, so I mean, I can become angry black man for, like that, or you know, if your mom's around, I try to contain that, and so I don't give it attention because I feel like there's some people that are missing out on so many great things that you know the world has to offer because they're hung up on what a person looks like. Or,
those are some very miserable people.
yeah. So why give that misery any form of attention?
Exactly.
'Cause it's
Especially when you said you know it's ignorance.
Right.
So why am I going to exude my energy into ignorance when you know nothing is going to change?
There's nothing. I'm not going to change, and you know they're miserable. I'm happy, and for me that's enough.
One other thing I just wanted to share too from my background is when my parents divorced when I was 4.5, and when I was 9 years old, my dad and my stepmom, they adopted a child, and he was Native American. He's mixed with a whole bunch of things. And he was adopted, so he doesn't even know all his background.
Right.
But we even say like there's probably some African American.
He's like
very dark. He's darker skinned. So. Even though I didn't really live with my father, I did see him every other weekend, and so I experienced. My family has experienced going to his football game or going to a restaurant, and the same thing, like party at 3. It's like that's my son,
Yeah.
or you know, no, that's my brother, and they kind of the kids in high school or whatever, they would call him the N-word and stuff like that. So. We kind of experienced that. I had Korean cousins that were adopted, so you wouldn't see like you just see a lot of people just see like, oh, that's a white boy or white guy, but in fact like my background is pretty diverse.
Right, and your family has always been comfortable with racial diversity.
Right.
So there was never any issue of who you dated, what race, or anything like that. What about from your side? Has there been any issue of you not bringing somebody who used your comb home?
No, as long
I've never heard that before.
as they have good credit and a job.
I don't care who you bring home, as long as they can use your comb.
I've never heard that in my
Really?
life.
Nope.
You've heard that before?
No, I haven't.
That must be some.
You have heard
Johnson
that
shit.
before. Yeah, so was
When
there
you
everything
grew
on your
up, tell how
side?
you grew
Well,
up. Yeah.
as long as they have good credit and a job, my family's okay. But no, seriously, my family's very open. I mean, I have a cousin who passed away last year that lived in Australia. He's from the States, but he was in the military and lived in Australia. I mean, he was married to a white woman, and growing up, even when, you know, in my former life, when I was dating girls, I typically brought home like the Italian girl.
Yeah.
So it was never anything.
Yeah.
My family's very open, very accepting. They're just about, you know, being with somebody who treats you the way you deserve to be treated.
Right.
And that can come in any color, any shape, any size. If they make you happy and you're happy every day of your life because of that person, then why would I discriminate against them because they don't look like us?
And that's how it should be. And right before we get to break, I'm going to wrap this conversation up with the interracial thing. Do you feel like you get more backlash from the black community, or do you get more backlash and stares from the white community?
Good question. Well, I'd say.
And before you answer that, when you typically go out and you guys you don't hang out too much, do you? I was going to say you typically hang out in the black places.
You don't let nobody answer the question first.
Because it's kind of like a compound question.
Right.
So you know,
I can use your card and write down that second half, and then
no, and Atlanta is very segregated.
Yeah.
So where do you typically go, and where do you get the most backlash?
It's going to sound very strange, but I will say it. But I actually feel more comfortable going to the predominantly white establishments.
And I feel the
but he
opposite.
feels the opposite. He feels more comfortable going to the predominantly African American establishment. So, and
is it because you feel like you're more received from the white crowd, and you feel you're more received from the black crowd?
for
Or
me,
what is-
it has a lot to do with just my upbringing. I mean, growing up, it was always my brother and I. We were the token black kids in Catholic school, and we were like 1 and 2, and everyone else was white. So growing up, I received a lot of backlash from, you know, the African American community.
'Cause you're not black
It was like, you're not black enough. You're an Uncle Tom. You sound white. You talk white. You hang out. So I almost I hate to use the word became fearful, but I felt like I clam up if I'm in a room and it's predominantly African American.
And you wasn't embraced, so
I
you
wasn't
don't.
embraced.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want you to answer the question also, but while this is, but you pledged a black fraternity.
And it was intentional. And
So how was that? Like, did you feel embraced, or did you feel like I'm going to? What did you feel?
I felt like I needed to, and I love my frat, so I just want to put that out there before anything comes from that. But I felt like I needed to step out of my comfort zone of like putting myself in environments that I knew I felt comfortable being in, you know, in the company of predominantly, you know, white people. So when I got to college, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go on a limb and try this. Now, in that circle, I feel fine because I feel like we all have that common thread of we're frat brothers. But to this day, if we go to a function, an establishment, or where I know it's going to be predominantly black, it'll be because he wants to go. Like, I will never say, let's go to place this. Like, I just won't do it. It's just so, it's still that childhood not being embraced and not being accepted, that still has carried through 36 years later, to where I would rather go to, you know, my house. But if we were going out, I'd rather go somewhere where I feel like it's either going to be mixed or it's going to be predominantly white.
But it has nothing to do with who you're with. It has everything to do with you. So would you feel that way do you feel that way without him too?
Well, yeah, I mean, because I had a life before him. So.
Exactly. So it's not even anything to do with being in a racial relationship, but everything to do with just.
Well, yes and no, but so my ex-wife is not black. My ex-wife is Hispanic. So it's almost like I have seriously dated, I should say, not black.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily black or white, but I mean, I go Hispanic. It's almost like I go down every other avenue, but I don't arrive at Black Lane. I go to Hispanic Drive and, you know, this, but...
Do you attribute that to the fact that you don't feel embraced by the black community? Do you feel like maybe that's a reason why you
that
makes sense.
Precisely what I'm thinking, and I didn't want to like negate. I mean, look over you answering the question, but I hear, like you say, you're more so attracted to the exotic looking, or you know, the atypical person, not African American. But what I'm hearing now is more like I never was accepted by blacks, so I pushed them away. That's kind of the narrative that I'm hearing
and that might be true, but I think subconsciously, by pushing them away, I almost created a preference for what I'm attracted to as a result of me kind of pushing that away, because I think psychologically I never felt embraced.
Right.
So if I don't feel embraced by something, then I don't want to prefer to like it.
I'm gonna reject you before you have a chance to reject me.
So you know, if we're gonna go down like the psychology path, it's probably a lot more up here, and I don't feel like it's fair for me to say that, you know, the black community as a whole, they've never embraced me. I'm just saying that the way, you know, my childhood, my upbringing, it shaped sort of
who you are,
what has solidified who I am now. As an adult, I don't know if it's I don't give people much, I don't pay much attention to it, but I don't think I wouldn't say at this point the black community doesn't embrace me or they embrace me less. I think that it's probably more on me that I felt so shunned for years that I'm not giving you the opportunity to decide if you want to embrace me, because I'm already kind of keeping you here. But I would feel comfortable if like a white guy came, I could have a whole conversation and feel I could be my total self. And for whatever reason, and I know it sounds weird, but I feel like I'm being less judged. I feel like
well, you know, I think that, I know you want to get it out, but I think that
into friendships too.
Well, before you answer that, what I was going to say what I think about. Damn it, I lost my train of thought. Does it translate to friendships? That's not what I was going to ask. But I forgot what I was going to say. But
it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Is that your question? Does it?
That's my question. Then, like, is it just in your love life, or does it translate into all of your social interactions, your friendships?
My friendships are actually, I would say, equally diverse. Like I do have black friends and I do have white friends. So in a weird way, no, the friendship, it doesn't. It's fine. It's just when it comes to the, I guess, sexual preference or what I'm attracted to, I almost like just turn a blind eye to black.
Did it come back to you? Okay, go ahead. Well, I'm gonna write my questions down.
Here's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that. I think I lost my train.
I thought you had it back.
Okay, well I got it. Okay, so is it would you agree with this statement? Like you're more open or more apt to inviting friendships versus love relationships because of the level of vulnerability?
I wouldn't say that's holistically accurate. I think that I've gone so many years of not feeling embraced or having sort of that insecurity around how another African American is going to perceive me, that I kind of feel like it's more me, like I just shut it down. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, you said and I asked that question because you said when you're engaging with white men or white people in general, you feel less judged. And then earlier this evening, you said, you don't, do you want to be hurt? When I asked about
letting the guard down.
Letting the guard down. So I'm wondering if you have the wall up from a romantic level, but is it lowered on a friendship level? Like if you find
it's odd because here's the thing. I feel like being a minority, in my mind I feel like I already know if a white person is going to judge me. I kind of feel like I already know the ways in which they can judge me. Like I already know it's more about, growing up. Just because I had white friends, don't get it twisted. When we got into it, the first word was you.
Yeah, but that's not personal to you. That's African American.
Right, that would have been what they would have said to the next African.
But when a black person say that's personal to you.
Right, because I'm like, well, wait, I'm just like you. So so I think that, and maybe that's why my guard is lowered more for a white person, because I feel like I already know, like the first thing, almost like even if you don't mean it, I know the first thing that you want to think or the first judgment you want to place on me is you N-word.
It's expected.
Right. So it's expected. So it's almost like I'm immune to that. Like okay, whatever. It's not personal, to your point, but with a fellow black person, I almost feel like, well, I'm just like you, so why would you judge me or say that I'm this or I act like this or I don't, and for some reason that has always been and probably always will be more hurtful than if a white person says, oh, you N-word. Because it's like, well, I expect you to say that, but I would love it if a black person wouldn't judge me or think that I'm acting too white or talking too white or being like, so it's probably all in my brain, but I'm sure that it does stem from just my upbringing, and it's just kind of.
But one thing about him is never like, I don't think you embrace your heritage.
Oh,
it's not like it's self-hatred or anything like that.
And that's not what I'm getting either.
So I feel you on that. I don't hear that, but I do hear the.
Maybe why he was attracted to.
I sort of relate to you too.
It makes a lot of sense.
I do.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, where I kept losing my train of thought, and I know what I find within myself, is that I am, to be judged and criticized by my own hurts a lot more than somebody who's not my own.
Right.
So when I'm around my own, I'm more cognitive maybe of what I'm doing, how I'm acting, because I don't want to be judged, because I really care about what they think.
You want to be accepted by your own.
Right, but if I'm in a place where I don't really care what they think, then I'm going to fucking get loose, because I don't know, man, what you think? Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's why I say I can relate. Like
I feel like I just tried out something new about myself.
That happens on this video.
I feel like
Dr. Phil said it.
people could relate to that. Just maybe not have the words to express it, or maybe the realization that they feel like that. But I think a lot of people can.
Yeah, so
relate to that.
let's take a break and then we're gonna get into what your issues are.
You got some. It ain't all about me. You got some too.
I know you just kept sending us down the path, but we just had to explore that. So, all right,
We'll be
right
back. That was cute.
We may not always agree on everything,
But we can all agree on the importance of looking out for our families and friends.
and standing together in the fight against HIV. Everyone should get tested for HIV at least once as part of routine health care.
gay and bisexual men may benefit from more frequent HIV testing and should consider getting tested every 3 to 6 months.
Knowing your status and taking whatever next steps it requires makes you and our community
HIV testing is free. Visit gettested.cdc.gov/stronger.